You don't enter this place through a door. You enter it through a mistake, a momentary microscopic lapse in the physical laws of the universe. 1 second, you're leaning against the drywall in the break room of your architectural firm. It's 11:45 p.m. You've been staring at high-rise blueprints for 14 hours. Your eyes are dry, your spine aches, and you just want your coffee to brew. You shift your weight, expecting the familiar, rigid resistance of painted plaster and wooden studs. Instead, the wall gives way. It doesn't break. It yields, like breaking the surface tension on a pool of dark water. You fall backward. Your stomach drops into your shoes as gravity temporarily inverts. You are not falling onto the linoleum floor of the office. You are falling through it, falling through the seams of reality itself. You hit the ground with bone-rattling force. The clean, sterile air of your office is instantly violently replaced in your lungs by the smell of old, moist carpet. It smells like a flooded basement that was abandoned and left to rot for 10 years. Mildew, damp dust, and something faintly metallic. You stand up, your heart hammering against your ribs, and frantically brush the damp carpet fibers off your suit. You spin around, slamming your hands against the space where you just fell through. It's solid. Mono-yellow wallpaper with a faded repeating diamond pattern stares back at you. You scream for your coworkers. You scream until your throat feels raw. But the sound doesn't echo. It's wrong. The acoustics are completely dead. Your voice is absorbed instantly by the damp carpet and the porous wallpaper, dying less than 5 feet away from your mouth. Above you, stretching across 600 million square miles of randomly segmented rooms, thousands of cheap fluorescent bulbs are buzzing at a deafening, relentless 60 hertz. You've read the internet forums late at night. You thought it was an urban legend, a creepypasta engineered to scare kids on Reddit. But as the dampness slowly soaks upward into the leather of your shoes, and the aggressive hum of the lights begins to drill a migraine into your skull, your brain is forced to process the terrifying, impossible truth. You've no-clipped out of reality. You are in the backrooms. Panic is a luxury you cannot afford. Panic elevates your heart rate, burns precious calories, and clouds your judgment. You force yourself to breathe in 4-second intervals. You are a structural engineer. You build skyscrapers. You understand geometry, load-bearing walls, spatial navigation, and architectural logic better than 99% of the human population. You decide right here and now to treat this not as a supernatural nightmare, but as a complex mapping problem. If it has walls, it has borders. If it has borders, it has an exit. You empty your pockets. You have a smartphone with 0 bars of signal, a black ballpoint pen, a pocket notebook, a broken watch, and a metal lighter. These are your tools for survival. You open the notebook to a blank page and establish your rules. Rule 1, never run. Running burns energy you cannot replace and creates impact noise that travels through the floorboards. Rule 2, follow the right-hand wall. It's a basic labyrinth algorithm. If you keep your right hand in continuous contact with the wall, you can theoretically map a closed system without ever walking in endless circles. Rule 3, leave breadcrumbs. You take your pen, uncap it, and make a small, precise X on the wooden baseboard near the floor. You stand up, place your right hand against the cheap, textured wallpaper, and begin to walk. You count your paces. At exactly 30 paces, you stop, crouch down, and make another X. For what feels like hours, your system works. You are a machine of pure, unadulterated logic. You fall into a rhythm. Pace, count, mark. Pace, count, mark. As you move, the engineer in you begins to notice the architectural anomalies, and you carefully catalog them in your notebook. The baseboards in Sector 4 are installed upside down. The ceiling tiles don't align with the room dimensions, creating jarring overlaps. You find electrical outlets on the walls, but when you look closely, they have no actual holes. They are just flat pieces of plastic printed to look like outlets. Because of these structural impossibilities, you make a chilling deduction. This space wasn't built by anything human. It was procedurally generated by an entity or a force that has seen human architecture, but fundamentally does not understand human anatomy or function. It's a cargo cult of a building, a mock-up. Your throat is parched. The dry, recycled air is leaching the moisture from your body. Around what you estimate to be hour 6, you find a puddle of slightly sweet-smelling liquid pooled in a divot on the carpet. It smells faintly of vanilla and roasted nuts. Almond water. The survival forums mention this. It's supposedly the only hydration available in this level of the simulation. Because your throat feels like cracked glass, you know you have to drink it. But you aren't stupid. You unscrew the plastic casing of your ballpoint pen, removing the ink cartridge to create a hollow tube. You use this as a makeshift straw, wrapping the bottom of it tightly in the silk fabric of your necktie. You use the tie as a rudimentary filter to block out the worst of the toxic carpet bacteria and mold spores. The water is lukewarm and tastes metallic, but it works. It quenches the burning in your throat. You stand up, wiping your mouth. You check your notebook. You have successfully mapped over 4,000 linear feet of non-Euclidean space. You feel a brief, dangerous flicker of pride. Your logic is holding up. You are surviving the impossible. You are going to engineer your way out of hell. And then, the architecture betrays you. You hit a dead end, not a sharp turn, not a T-junction, a solid, featureless wall blocking the entire corridor. You stop. You pull out your notebook and trace your path with your finger. Your brow furrows in confusion. According to your meticulously drafted map, this corridor should not end here. It should intersect with the primary, wider hallway you started in exactly 40 feet ago. The geometry doesn't add up. It physically cannot add up. You turn around to backtrack, deciding to trace your steps in reverse. You rely on the X marks you left on the baseboards to guide you back to the last known intersection. You walk 30 paces back. You crouch down to find your mark. Your heart stops dead in your chest. The blood drains from your face, leaving you entirely cold. You trace the jagged letters with a trembling finger. The blue ink smears slightly under your touch. It's still wet. Because you haven't seen another soul, your mind desperately, violently tries to rationalize what you are looking at. Carbon monoxide poisoning, a severe hallucinogenic fugue state. Did you double back and write this yourself without realizing it? No. You analyze the penmanship. The handwriting isn't yours. Yours is the rigid, blocky text of an architect. This handwriting is jagged, frantic, manic. Someone, or something, else wrote this. And they wrote it with your ink. You stumble backward, your shoulder blades hitting the opposing wall. As your body makes contact with the drywall, the environment responds. The buzzing of the fluorescent lights suddenly changes pitch. It drops from a steady 60 hertz to a low, guttural, vibrating 40 hertz. The light shifts from a sickening yellow to a dim, dying amber. The temperature in the room plummets 10 degrees in a matter of seconds. The backrooms aren't a static, empty maze. Your logic, your engineering degree, your meticulous little map, they are entirely useless. Because this place isn't a structure, it's a digestive tract. And by mapping it, by imposing human order on it, you haven't solved the puzzle. You've acted like a virus drawing attention to itself. The immune system has arrived. Rule 1 is dead. You run. You sprint blindly into the amber darkness. Behind you, the sound of movement begins. It doesn't sound like footsteps. It sounds like elongated limbs dragging across the damp carpet. It sounds like wet, heavy leather slapping rhythmically against the floorboards, picking up speed at an impossible rate. You take a hard left, completely abandoning your mapped route. You just need distance. But the geometry of the backrooms is actively working against you now. Corridors that were perfectly level suddenly slant upward at exhausting 45-degree angles. Hallways randomly narrow, forcing you to turn sideways to squeeze through, the abrasive wallpaper tearing the fabric of your suit jacket and scraping the skin off your shoulders. Your lungs burn as if you are breathing battery acid. Your legs are flooding with lactic acid, growing heavier with every desperate stride. You burst through a narrow opening and find yourself in a massive, cavernous room filled with hundreds of beige office partitions. A maze of cubicles within the maze of walls. Because you cannot outrun it, it doesn't fatigue, and you do. You must outthink it. You dive under the nearest heavy wooden cubicle desk, pulling your knees to your chest. You press both hands tightly over your mouth and nose to stifle the ragged, gasping sounds of your own breathing. The wet slapping sound stops. The entity is in the room with you. You hear it searching. It moves with a sickening, disjointed grace. Then, a new sound. It clicks. A rapid, hollow sound like someone grinding stones together. It's sniffing the air. You look down at your ruined suit in horror. The smell of the sweet almond water you spilled on your tie when you were filtering it. The entity isn't using eyes to find you. It's tracking the scent of the water. You have maybe 3 seconds before it rounds the partition. You reach up, frantically unknotting your damp tie. You slide it off your neck, ball it up in your fist, and throw it as hard as you can over the cubicle wall into the next row of desks. The entity shrieks, a sound like sheet metal being torn in half, and launches itself over the cubicle wall toward the scent. You don't wait to see it hit the ground. You crawl frantically out the opposite side of the desk, scramble to your feet, and sprint toward the only source of light left in the room. A single, violently flickering bulb at the end of a long, straight corridor that seems to stretch into infinity. The entity realizes the trick. The shrieking resumes, louder this time, and the wet slapping chase begins again. But something else is happening. The floor beneath your shoes begins to soften. The damp carpet feels like it's turning into quicksand, pulling at your ankles. The walls around you blur and vibrate. The backrooms are glitching. The simulation is trying to swallow you whole, dissolving the floor to trap you before the entity can even catch you. You look at the wall to your left. The yellow wallpaper is actively tearing away in large strips, revealing a pitch-black digital void underneath. The geometry is completely failing. You realize with sudden, terrifying clarity that the only way to escape a glitch is to become one. If this wall is broken, it might be a way out. You don't slow your sprint. You lower your shoulder, close your eyes, and throw your body full force into the tearing wallpaper, attempting to no-clip into the dark void. Impact. A blinding flash of white light. Then, the shockingly cold, solid feel of smooth linoleum against your cheek. You open your eyes, gasping for air like a drowning man breaking the surface. The oppressive, suffocating smell of moist carpet is entirely gone. It has been replaced by the crisp, sterile scent of industrial bleach and stale break-room coffee. "You good, man?" your coworker's voice asks, sounding slightly amused. "You just tripped pretty hard against the wall there." You push yourself up onto your knees. You look at your hands. They are perfectly clean. You look down at your suit. It is completely intact, the tie perfectly knotted around your neck. Your racing heartbeat begins to slow. The pure, unadulterated terror melts into a warm puddle of adrenaline and relief. It was a micro-sleep, a stress-induced hallucination. You've been working too many hours on the high-rise project. Your exhausted brain simply short-circuited and fed you a nightmare while you were on your feet. You let out a massive, shaking sigh of relief. You smile, wave off your concerned coworker, and walk on trembling legs over to the coffee machine on the counter. You pour the coffee into your mug. The machine hums quietly. Wait. You pause, the coffee pot hovering in midair. The machine isn't humming. The lights overhead are humming, and they aren't buzzing at the standard quiet 50 hertz of a modern corporate office building. They are buzzing at exactly 60 hertz. A low, aggressive vibration that drills straight into your skull. Your fingers go numb. Your coffee cup slips from your grasp and shatters into a dozen pieces against the linoleum floor. You look down at your shoes. They're dry, but as you look closer at the linoleum floor tiles, you finally notice the pattern. The tiles aren't perfectly square. The grout lines meet at angles that are mathematically impossible for a human being to construct. You never escaped. The backrooms didn't lose you. They just realized that a rat runs much, much faster in a maze when it doesn't know it's still in a cage. The entity didn't kill you. It just downloaded your memories, extracted your deepest desire for safety, and procedurally generated a brand new floor just for you. Welcome to Level 1.